So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Natasha Collier, who's the owner at Dressing Rooms Home Staging. So, Natasha, thank you for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Thank you very much for having me. So I'm Natasha. I own Dressing Rooms Home Staging. We're a home staging company based in West Yorkshire. So we're based in Keighley, but we cover like a 2.5 hour radius at the minute. So we
Brilliant.
travel quite far. We're quite well placed in the country to kind of go all the way to that coast, then all the way to that
Yes.
coast. So it works pretty well. But basically, what we do is we stage properties for sale. So effectively turning them from empty boxes into show homes. So we work with
Brilliant.
builders, we work with developers, we work with estate agents. A lot of the time, we work with investors that are doing flips. So rather than selling a property empty, they turn it into a show home, and it sells a hell of a lot better. It increases demand hugely. And then obviously that sort of results in more viewings, more
Yeah.
offers, higher offers, and quicker sales. So the return on investment is huge. And that's really the benefit of what staging does.
Yeah.
We've also sort of branched out from there. That's our core service, but we also do HMO furnishing and serviced accommodation furnishing. So that means we furnish Airbnbs, so they are guest ready, and HMOs, so your student houses or working professional houses. We take them from, again, empty all
Yeah.
the way to fully kitted out with, the cutlery and irons. So
Brilliant.
literally the whole shebang. But yeah, that's kind of what we do. And so it's very much in the property industry.
Yeah.
I also invest in property myself. So it's quite a nice link to sort of be in the industry. And a lot of I chat to my clients, and a lot of the time they actually help me with my property problems and
Yes.
little things like that. So it's a really nice environment that I find myself in with the business.
Brilliant. Yeah, it makes quite a massive difference, doesn't it? To, as you say,
Yeah.
showing an empty box and hoping
Yeah.
people work it out what it's gonna look like.
100%. Yeah, I
There's-
think people just don't have any imagination. I think,
yes.
when you're in property, or when you've got that creative mindset, it's hard to imagine people not having that. But the
Yeah.
majority of the population do not have the imagination to be able to see what something's going to look
Yes.
like. And if they can't imagine themselves living there, they can't form that emotional attachment to the property, and therefore it becomes a really logical decision. And actually, as you know, I'm sure you've talked about a million times, sales is based on emotion. You want
100%.
people to be emotionally invested, and then they'll jump through any hoop that you
Yep.
like in order to make that happen. But it's hard to form that connection with white walls and grey carpets.
Yes.
So, turning it into a show home means that they fall in love with the idea of seeing themselves drink the coffee at that island, or see their kids playing in the teepee that's in the kids' bedroom. And it's the idea that creates the emotional attachment. And also, it's people, generally speaking, don't just view one house. They're viewing,
Yep.
5, 10 houses to
Yes.
find the right one for them.
Yep.
So by creating something a bit different and that stands out, you're gonna be more memorable to them as well.
Yes.
So that's kind of the real benefit of it. But yeah, people just don't have the imagination. So we quite often get people saying, "Oh, I understand why you'd stage a big house, but I just don't think it's worth it on anything under, 150." And it's my biggest bugbear, because those are the properties that need it most.
Yep.
If you can imagine those typical 2 or 3 bed terraced or semis, generally speaking, you've got a kitchen diner, you've got a small box room,
Yep.
and your competition is the plots, the new build kind of plots,
Yep.
which have all got a show home. So you're already competing with a show home, and you've got these smaller
Great point.
spaces that need to be multi-use. They need to maybe perform as an office, or as a child's bedroom, or um, the kitchen diner needs to serve multiple purposes. And an empty room looks smaller when it's not furnished. It can look smaller. So
Yes.
that also adds to this kind of idea that they don't know how to use the space.
Yep.
So it really does work on all levels of property. It does, yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, yeah, so we teach sales and we use the 80-20 rule, i.e. 80% emotion,
Yeah,
20% logic. And the other thing I
yeah,
always say is it is all about emotion, but make sure you just give them a bit of logic so they've got something to
yeah,
explain the reason for the sale, for the purchase, if that makes sense. It's
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
fantastic. So, Natasha, before we get into sort of more detail about the business, can you tell us a
Mm.
little bit more about your background? You've sort of mentioned some of the cues about why you got into this particular business, but how did you come
Yeah.
to set your business up?
So the reason what, so I did Spanish and marketing at uni, and it had a posher name, but it was basically Spanish and marketing. And I did a year abroad in Mallorca, and I
Right.
actually worked for the travel company TUI in their marketing department. So I had like a classic year out where I worked in industry, and I hated being working for someone else and having no one listen to me. Sounds very big-headed, but I really struggled with the concept of I was the lowest rung, therefore automatically my ideas were kind of just put to one side, as it were, because I was just an intern effectively.
Yes.
Um, and so I kind of that sort of sparked something in me that, okay, maybe I'm not a massive fan of working for somebody else. And then so I went and finished my degree, and as I was finishing my degree, we my on my year abroad, my parents had gone into property. My dad had been made redundant. I thought, oh my goodness, they've lost their minds. What have they done? But they started in property, and therefore, off the back of that, my now husband and I started in property. Um, and really, really enjoyed it, really fell in love with the industry. And we were working on property as we finished uni. And then it, the kind of I needed something else as well. I still had that
Yes.
creative outlet that I
Yeah.
wanted to fulfill. And the sort of spark for it came from my parents were doing a flip, and they'd seen a talk from someone about staging, and they decided they wanted it staged. But the nearest person they could find was in Scotland.
Right.
So she did cover nationwide, but it was
It's a
obviously
long way though.
a
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, okay, there's a bit of a gap in the market then in our area for
Yeah.
that. And really that's kind of where I the spark sort of built, and I bought the set of furniture off of her as my first kind of set. And then I started from there really. So it was kind of a good use of my creative outlet, a good use of the property and knowledge that we'd built, but it was something that I could get a bit more stuck into day to day.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, that was just before COVID. So then we had COVID, and it kind of threw a bit of a spanner in the works for a little bit. Um, so we actually launched virtual staging whilst we were in COVID, mainly for sort of buy-to-lets, and we did it for properties pre that weren't ready yet. Um, Sorry, are we still? There we go. Um, I feel like the internet just went a bit funny there.
Oh, it might be. It might be my end, but we'll keep going.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's and then from there we just kind of built it and built the business. We still did property alongside, so
Yep.
we actually had a year out to go traveling, which was amazing. So I
Wonderful.
kept the business going throughout that, and we used the profits that we made from property to go traveling. And then when we came back from traveling, it was like a bit of a decision time of are we gonna ramp up the staging, or are we going to actually move the focus onto property? And so
Yep.
yeah, we've ramped up to the staging, and yeah, it's been a very good decision.
Really well
Yeah,
done.
it's been a really nice last few years. It's been a good few years of growth and
Great.
expansion, and it's been really healthy. So yeah,
Wonderful. Fantastic. And looking back over this period, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome?
staff.
Yes, quite a common one.
Yes. So kind of, managing yeah, being able to kind of let go of things is a lot of it.
Yes.
And also, the balance of employing staff versus having subcontractors that work for me.
Yes.
And it's been a hard one to to sort of figure out because there's kind of many different roles of the business.
Yep.
But in terms of marketing, you've got admin, you've got the actual design, and it's been a little bit tricky to try and get someone um, with it in those areas, having enough to do to
Yep.
keep them, to keep them sort of full time,
Yes.
and having the loyalty of having somebody full time, where, because there's a responsibility to that staff member. So that's been a real challenge, but we found a really good groove at the minute, which has kind of worked well for me as a small business, which is I've got a wonderful apprentice. She's absolutely stellar. She does a lot of the design stuff, so she's got such an eye for it. She's brilliant. She's
Brilliant.
been sort of really amazing at the design and the logistics side. So that's been fantastic, and it's been a way for me to be able to step back from actually being doing every single project.
Yes.
And then in terms of the actual days and the installations, we use a lot of subcontractors. So we've got a really nice group of subcontractors that I can call on who all know what they're doing. They've all worked for me a while. They all do their own bits as well. And
Right.
that's the sort of bit you have the challenge, isn't it? Whereas
Yes.
if they were full time for me, then I'd always have them, but they're not. So that's the slight challenge. But having enough subcontractors, which was kind of where we've got to now, has been a really sort of beneficial. And then I've got a VA who helps on the admin. And I
Brilliant.
think that balance has been really good for my stage of where I'm at with the business,
Yep.
because it's kind of managed cost, but also meant that we can grow. And I've managed to take a step back. I used to go on every single project. I don't go on every single project anymore. I still enjoy it, so it's still
Yep.
nice to go on some of them. But yeah, generally speaking, I try not to, and I try and let the team do what they do best and go and smash it. So,
Brilliant.
um, but that has definitely been a challenge that's taken me a while to get into work out where I need to sit within that. But yeah, I feel like we're in a good place now with it.
And that's wonderful. And I think this idea of fractional working it helps people now because historically, and I still find a lot of people really struggle with this idea. Well, I don't want to employ somebody yet because I'm not
Yeah,
ready. But there are people that will work part time, that will work
yeah,
remotely. VAs
yeah,
will
mm,
support multiple clients, and the ability over the last few years to have multiple employees working a few hours,
yeah.
a few days a week is so much straightforward now, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Rather than, what I started out with was almost trying to replace me and trying to get someone
Yes.
who was doing bits of admin, bits of marketing, bits of design, bits
Yes.
of actually going on the installations. And it meant that, they couldn't possibly do all of that in the same way that I can because they don't care as much, because why would they? It's not their business. And they might absolutely excel at the design side, but maybe they're not quite as hot on the admin kind of
Yep.
bit. And it's a hard balance to find that. So it's been really useful kind of splitting up the areas of the
Great.
business, and then you genuinely get people that are brilliant at that bit of
Yes.
it. And you sort of get the best out of everybody. So yeah, that's been a really benefit.
And I think we often use some of the structures we help people with is this idea of if you think about most people like what they're good at and good at what they like. It's just
Yeah,
like those two things go together. And yet when we have a business, especially when in the early days, we have to a whole bunch of things,
yeah,
some of which we will absolutely love and we're good at, but
yeah,
there will be other things we don't really like and therefore we're not really good at. And
yeah,
and once you start thinking of it like that, we can let's delegate the stuff that we don't really like, we're not really good at, to people
yeah,
that absolutely love that.
yeah,
And I think some of the things that hold people back from delegation in general is thinking because I don't like it, everyone else won't like it.
yeah. No one else is gonna. Yeah,
Whereas the realization I think you get, especially when you get into doing this, is that
yeah,
for everything I don't like, someone will go, I'd love
yeah,
to admin. Oh, I'd love to do
yeah,
something, and so
yeah,
it's to find the right people for the right hours.
yeah.
Um, so whether it's from those challenges, and obviously we've got some learning already, but whether it's from the challenges or success you've had, what are the key learnings you've had about growing a successful business? Would you say?
Um, I think something that I still struggle to this day with, but I'm getting better at is sort of not having all the answers, but having the confidence that it's going to come out well
Great.
anyway. So, whether that comes from investing in more stock, and then obviously you have to house, from the way we work, we own all of our furniture.
Right.
So we invest in stock and then that goes out to a show home, stays there for a period of time and then comes back. So obviously the more you invest, eventually that's going to come back.
Yep.
And there's been some times we've had some very full warehouse.
Yes.
But that sort of taking the leap and knowing it will work out is something I'm still learning, but I've definitely learned has that's just the way you've got to do it. You're never going to have all the answers. So being able to just go for it and trust in your abilities to make sure figures itself out at the end. I think that's been really, really useful. And also, outsourcing that I think as a perfectionist, it was a little bit tough at the beginning to
Yes.
outsource, and that was a bit of a challenge. But it's so much better. You've just got to trust in the people that you have
Yeah.
made the right call, that you've employed, like you said, you've employed the people that are good at that little bit. So trust that they're going to do the job, and even if that cushion is not exactly where I would have put that cushion, the clients are always still happy. The look is still amazing. They've still done a fantastic job, and the world keeps turning basically. So
Brilliant.
yeah, a bit of a I'm not as important as I thought I was. It's probably a good learning to take away. Um,
Brilliant.
so yeah,
Which is so helpful because, as you say, if we think we have all the answers, then
yeah,
we're creating a role for us that puts
yeah.
us central and therefore stuck in that business,
Exactly. And
in
you
that
can
role.
never replace yourself if you think that you are the only one in the world that can do it.
Yep.
It's just not something that you can use to grow with. And the amount of even just this morning, we're planning three different stages that are all coming up in the next 6 days. And I'm on holiday for a big chunk of that. And it's still going ahead,
Brilliant.
Gracie smashing it in the background,
Brilliant.
and that's only because I've been able to be like, oh, trust that the team can do that, and I know they can do that, and now we've got to a place where I don't need to be there to do it. So yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah,
And I think you're aware we're a business coaching organization. I'm keen to
yes.
know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that is business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
Um, my parents have always been a massive
Brilliant.
support system. Of their, I know my mum's done a podcast with yourself,
Yes.
and all about the property business, and
Yep.
that's been the having them have such a knowledge of the industry, and kind of they're a little bit more gung-ho than me, shall we say. They're a bit more like, just it'll be fine, just do it.
Brilliant.
So having that in the background has been amazing, because I think I'm very lucky in that respect. I think a lot of people actually have the opposite, where they probably want to move forward and maybe they've got a cautious parent that's saying, oh,
Yeah.
are you sure you should do that? I've not had that. I've had the complete opposite, which is, we believe in you, go for it, which I
Brilliant.
think does have a massive impact, and gives you that confidence and belief in yourself. And then I'm working with a coach at the minute who's amazing. She's called Hayley, and she's been fantastic at um, getting me over a lot of hurdles that I didn't, that were just mental blocks basically.
Brilliant.
And really, you know, helping kind of break down, because it can be quite overwhelming, can't it? Or having a
Yes.
business, having all of these different things that you could do, and
Yes.
should you do them, and actually breaking those down into manageable steps. And then if there is a block to do with that step, let's talk about it and thrash it out, and figure out what that is, and we can get over
Brilliant.
it. And that's been, she's been really helpful with that.
Brilliant. It's interesting. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and it was proven many years ago that the brain fires up. They actually put someone's brain on a
Mm.
monitor, and the
Yeah,
brain fires up about 34% more when we're
yeah,
talking about a problem than when we're just thinking about it.
right.
And it
Okay,
is
yeah,
that activity of talking things through with
yeah,
somebody that could be really, really helpful. Because,
yeah,
but for us, because we think about it
yeah,
in a deeper level, which is
yeah.
fascinating. And whether from the people you mentioned or not, do
Mm.
you have any favourite quotes or sayings that you catch yourself using a lot, or about business or life in general?
Mm, I well, go for no from the book. Go for no is
Yes. Oh,
definitely
great.
one that we tell ourselves. Um, my favorite quote is not really a business one, but it's just a life one,
It's
which is
cool.
life is not measured by the breaths that you take, but the moments that take your breath away. And I really like that quote because
Love
I
that.
think it encompasses, there's as a business owner and as someone who can I can bury myself in the business, but equally, it's important to also enjoy life right now as well. You never know what's
100%.
around the corner. So being able to, trust that it's going to work out, trust in somebody else, and actually have the time and enjoy yourself and go traveling if that's what you want to do, like me or whatever it is. Um, you know, pack your life full of, exciting moments, and the
Yeah,
business is just one of those. It's not the only thing going on. And that's something that yeah, my husband and I, we like to go traveling. So that's kind of what we
brilliant.
our excuse is, oh well,
I-
it's
It,
moments to take our breath away.
I think it's wonderful. It's a great quote, but also I meet so many people that in business, and it's like, well, we'll put our life on hold for 10 years and hope the
Yeah,
success comes, and it's like, well,
yeah,
if we actually focus on being successful now, or more importantly, enjoying it right now,
yeah,
then
yeah,
the success comes more easily, more
yeah.
quickly, and we tend to be both happier and more profitable just by saying, let's make it work for us. So I think,
Yeah,
you know,
100%. Yeah, I think there's like you say, there's some people go, we're going to have a really crap 2 years, and we're going to, every single minute of every single day, we're going to, nose to the grindstone and just get stuff done.
yes,
But I mean, certainly the period of life that I'm in, I've got friends getting married, we've got friends having children, and it's a really exciting, lovely time, and you're never going to get those moments again. You're not going to get the hen dos and the weddings. So to to do that, I think would be such a shame. And that's the whole point of life, is to see
yep,
friends and to see the world and to enjoy it. So it's I'm not 100% on board with the whole, yeah, ignore everything
yeah,
else and just do your business. I think both can exist
brilliant.
um at once.
So give us that quote again. That's it's not the
Life is not measured by the breaths that you take, but the moments that take your breath away.
lovely. What a great quote. I'll have that one. And similarly, any favorite books or podcasts you can recommend again about business success, life in
Yeah.
general that you can recommend.
Um, I like Rob Dial and the Mindset Mentor. As a podcast, sorry. So
Yep,
um I love reading, but I love novels. So I'm not a massively into my business books, but I'm more than happy to listen to podcasts. But
brilliant.
some of them, like Diary of a CEO, or some of the what's the other one? The one that Jake, what's his face,
The High
does.
Performance Podcast,
High
Jake
performance,
Humphries.
yeah.
Yep,
I think they can be really good, but I find sometimes they can be quite long and quite a lot of detail.
yep,
And I sometimes find myself thinking of something else when I should be listening to them,
yeah,
because I
yeah,
think they can be quite, in depth. Whereas the Rob Dial podcast, The Mindset Mentor, they're 20-minute episodes, if
great.
that, 15, 20-minute episodes, and they just focus on one snippet, and they give you actionable things that you can take away and do. So it's, they talk about, it's all good mindset stuff for business, thinking about gratitude and thinking about kind of your own thoughts and what you're forming from that. So they're very useful, but they're also short, snappy, and there's
Brilliant.
bits of advice that you can just take away and do. So
Lovely.
rather than your brain wandering off, which is what mine seems to do, I can manage those bursts, and I find them really, really helpful. And if you're ever in a bit of a slump, there's some really nice ones.
Great.
Like one of my favorites is literally called How to Be Happy, and it's kind of just some really nice, positive things to listen to.
Love it. Thank you. They're two great recommendations. And what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far, Natasha?
Um, oh goodness. Um, I think I'm harder working than I thought. I think maybe I was a bit lazy at uni or whatever, but once I'm enjoying what I'm doing, I can actually
Yes.
work hard on it. And yeah, I've got more. I think I've got more as I've sort of, I started this business when I was pretty young. As I've kind of had it a few years and kind of gone through it, I've become stronger in my own convictions and beliefs in terms of, when to say no to clients, when to that's what I'm worth and that's the price that you're going to pay, and you're sort of
Yep.
having stronger convictions in that sense, which has been really useful, and sort of knowing that is in there is super helpful. But I think, so much of our business is repeat customers, so we're
Yep.
obviously doing something right,
Brilliant.
and kind of, being therefore knowing your worth is super important, because people are still coming back to us. Therefore, they obviously value the service that we
Brilliant.
offer, and they like working with me.
Yep.
They're nice clients, and they like working with dressing rooms. So um, yeah, having faith in your and belief in yourself, I guess.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
That was
And
really contradicting himself, didn't it, when I said "I guess" at the end of all of that?
well, I suppose the mindset, but yeah. Well, it just shows, yeah, okay, it's yeah, yeah, it does a little, but it just shows you're not, yeah, you believe that to be true, but maybe it's just a bit more work on it, and uh, it's, but it's, I mean, it's quite difficult to be introspective. I've asked that question to lots of people, and a lot of people, because we don't really know.
Mm,
It takes a lot of work to know ourselves. I think
yeah,
is a trueness, if that makes sense. And
yeah,
a lot of people go through life not really knowing who
yeah,
we are. So it's an easy question to ask. It's not always an easy question to
yeah.
answer.
And it's
Um,
hard, I think, as Brits as well. We don't really like necessarily beef
I
ourselves up. So it's like having to think of a
I
something
think
I'm
so.
good at or a compliment to myself of what what I've learned about myself is.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's his part of it, isn't it? It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't. Well, I often say before we start these conversations about there's a very unhelpful British phrase which is "don't blow your own trumpet."
Yes.
And but a friend of mine told me many years ago, it's a long time ago now, but it's always stuck with me. And he said, "Chris, if we don't blow our own trumpets, then a beautiful
Yeah.
instrument will remain unplayed." So so that's quite a good way of looking at it. So yeah, it's a very British thing to not be
Yeah.
totally sure. That's good. And there's actually one of the things we have in Action Coach is a definition, what we consider a definition of true business, which is quite
Hmm.
interesting. It's probably where people end up, but definitely don't start at. But we
Mm.
believe a true business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that
Yeah.
works without its owners.
Yeah.
I'm just keen to know what you think about that as a definition, and obviously where how that relates to you directly.
Yeah, because I mean I think definitely I would say that because you know from a practical point of view, if you can sell it, then it's a business, right? But if you can't sell it, if you are it,
Yeah,
so that's kind of, if you sort of thinking about in those terms, if your long-term plan with the business is to sell it, you need to get out, remove yourself from that, and make sure it runs, as you say, without you. So that's definitely something I'm working on. It's not something I've achieved yet. But it's, taking the step back from actually being on any of the installations and kind of working on the business rather than in it has definitely it's taking steps in the right direction.
brilliant.
Um, so yeah, I would agree with that. But it's harder, it's quite hard to achieve, I think, especially when, it's tough being a small business right now, with all the costs that you've got.
Yeah,
It is a big consideration, investing in people that can maybe take over from you. So but it's, yeah, certainly something that I think I definitely aspire to be, for it to be running without me. Sure.
I think, I mean, it is a stage by stage thing. It's almost
Yeah.
impossible to start a business, have it work without you from day
Yeah.
one. So it's like, it's not like
Yeah.
but I think the challenge we find, and I find, is I find a lot of people stuck in the middle bit of
Yeah.
having a business that could work without them,
Yeah.
but not really breaking to the next level because they haven't even thought
Yeah.
of that, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
In fact, I spoke to somebody a couple of days ago and he went, I never thought of it like that,
Yeah.
that perhaps I could. And then that literally said it probably could. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, so you could do all
Yeah.
these things that you might choose to do. But I think it also relates to having goals, the other
Yeah.
side of it working without you. So
Yeah.
you mentioned traveling 2 or 3 times, which is great. I
Yeah.
would imagine if you said if it worked without me, I know exactly where I'd go and what I'd do.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
a lot of people go, well, I have no idea, and the thought of it, therefore,
Yeah.
of having it working without them is they sit in a chair and stare at a wall. And
Yeah.
if that's the thought, then I've seen people sabotage the
Yeah.
whole process because
Right.
that, that's, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Driven
Yeah.
people want to do other things, but it's having an idea on the other side, I think. But I
Yeah.
suspect you've already would have some pretty good ideas on what you would do with
Yeah, well,
with time.
whenever I'm umming and ahhing whether I want to go when I should go on a job and because I enjoy going on the installations, I think yes, but do I enjoy going on the installations or do I enjoy being sat on a beach somewhere in the Caribbean more? In which case, that's the playoff. So
Absolutely. Uh,
but yeah, I think it's something that, well, I didn't until I started working with a coach, but actually having an idea of what do you want out of the business in
yeah.
the next 10, 20 years? Do you want to sell it? Do you want to own it forever? Do you only want to keep it, just for you? And that's absolutely fine. If
Yes,
you're happy with it
absolutely.
in the level that you are the business, then that's
Absolutely.
totally fine. But if you as long as you have that consideration, because then it does sort of play a part into, well, would that pay off long term in for that end goal that I'm after?
Absolutely. No, I totally get that. So looking forward then, Natasha, what does the future look like for you guys and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
So we're growing at the moment, and we are definitely expanding the home staging side. So we're doing more jobs than we've ever sort of done before, and we've got more furniture. Gosh, we've got more sofas than we've ever had before. I'm currently buying more sofas.
Wonderful.
So we're definitely growing, and the idea to certainly grow the serviced accommodation and HMO side as well. We are, yeah, taking on more subcontractors as well. So we're sort of expanding that side of the team so that we can do more jobs basically. Because as well, I had a relatively small vision in terms of, oh, we could do one job a day, whereas actually with the right team, you can do 5, 10, however many jobs a
Yeah,
day.
brilliant.
So yeah, we're steadily growing and at the minute, certainly working on outsourcing the tasks that I do to sort of try and take me out of it so that I can focus on, the sales side of things,
Yeah.
and actually just getting our name out there. So yeah, lots of growth. Challenges wise, obviously that presents in growing one element means that all elements are also forced to grow. So, for
Yes.
example, we're investing in stock, which
Yeah.
means we need to keep those kits out there, which means we then need to invest in more marketing. It also means we need to invest in our warehouse to make the storage solutions a bit easier and more straightforward down. We have the office above the warehouse, so there's a big investment in all areas, which is quite
Yeah.
intimidating, but it is good. And yeah, it's that kind of committing to one and committing to it and knowing that it'll pay off and work out.
Brilliant. Yes, it's an interesting thing. It's excuse me. Often growth is about, or supporting growth is identifying and fixing the bottlenecks as growth happens. Because as you
Yeah.
say, it could start here. We may be the bottleneck, might be sales, but get good at sales, then it's delivering
Yeah.
it, isn't it? And so
Yeah.
often it is both identifying but also fixing those challenges that we have.
Yeah.
And so final question, it's final but one, because I'm going to ask you a bonus question after this. What would be the best advice you give an 18-year-old you if you could go back and give yourself that advice, Natasha?
I think, yes, if you're starting, well, know what you want to do, and if you feel something passionately that you want to do, go for it. I think before I went to uni, I was umming and ahhing whether I would go into events or not, and I loved events. I worked my weekends at a wedding venue, and I absolutely
Oh,
loved
right.
events. And it was always what I was going to do. And then I kind of went on a slightly different path. And now my life, don't get me wrong, I love my business and I love what we do, but I also blooming love organising an event. I've loved organising my wedding. Every single birthday party is a whole thing. I've organised multiple surprise parties. Like events have creeped their way back into my life. So I know that I would have excelled at that. So if you feel really strongly that you've got a passion for something, definitely go and scratch that itch and make sure if that is, go and try it. And if that's what you want to do, then really try and give it you go whilst you're 18, you've got all the possibilities of no responsibility really. Um, and then you can work out if it is right for you. So I think I would definitely say that to sort of trust in my own, if I was speaking to myself, I'd go, trust that I know what I want and at least go and try it and explore it as an option. And then I would also, if I was starting a business again, so as a young woman starting a business, I think I would really try and have a bit more confidence in my actions. And it's easier said than done, isn't it? But a bit more confidence in my actions and try and as soon as you've got something working, try and replace yourself within that because then you don't
Yeah.
get attached to tasks. So the problem I had as a perfectionist was once I was doing a task, I got good at it. I got then quite attached to
Yep.
doing that task, which makes it harder to
Yep.
outsource. Whereas if from the beginning you can kind of go, right, I know how it should work. I've experienced it enough to know the good and bad, but I'm going to get someone else in there.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Then you've already on the steps to kind of replacing yourself in a business.
Yeah, I think yes. I always talk about the idea of master it, systemize it, train it,
Yeah,
delegate it, and it's just like absolutely master it because you want it to be done your
yeah,
way. Though, I think
yeah,
that's what most small businesses, especially with niche
yeah,
businesses, get it right, get it the way you
yeah,
want it. But once you've done that,
yeah.
that's the start of the process, not the end of the process.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
systemization and training. So brilliant.
Yeah.
So bonus question. Given you've done a lot of traveling, so what would be the top three places that have taken your breath away? Going back to a
Oh
quote.
my goodness. That is a question. Um, so I love marine, like I love the sea and
Yep,
I love whales, dolphins, anything that lives in the
yep,
sea. And we were in New Zealand in Kaikoura, which was the most like amazing place. It had beaches, it had mountains, it had lush greenery. It was just fantastic. And basically, they run. There's these dolphins. They're called dusky dolphins that are native to that part of the world, and they run these trips. It's so ethical. They like don't do it very often and they're so good with the boats and like they're because I'm very passionate about animals in general, so we definitely made sure it was a very good company. But you basically they dumped you in the water and then the dolphins would swim past you basically. But dolphins love playing with you. So if you got your snorkel, they encourage you to make noise and the dolphins come and play with you. And it was absolutely Baltic. It was freezing cold and I was jumped in the water and then I said, "Oh my gosh, my wetsuit's like weighing me down," because he had a wetsuit jacket. And she said, "Oh, take it off. I can if you're warm enough to take it off." I was like, "Take it." And leapt like went in and we were diving down and this dolphin was playing. It was just spinning around me and like diving in the air and it was just the most magical thing in the whole world. It was fantastic. And yeah, if I could go back to one moment, I would blooming go to that one.
lovely.
So that one. Then we loved Australia, like Whitehaven Beach. They're gorgeous, like white sand and turquoise water was just stunning. And then we went to some amazing places in Asia as well. The Philippines, I think, again, I mean, I'm a bit biased because I love the sea, so anything with the
Yeah,
sea in it is gorgeous. But yeah, the Philippines going and doing the sardine run in Mobile in the Philippines, where there's all these like just we were scuba diving and we were obviously relatively deep and then you look up and it's like a cloud has gone over you and it's all the fish, it's all the
wow,
sardines in a ball above
amazing.
you and there's like I don't want to misquote, but there is a hell of a lot of sardines, and they just block the surface. There's no light,
Wow,
and it was just unbelievable. I find nature absolutely immense, and yeah, so being able to like experience some of those little pockets was like just fantastic.
brilliant, wonderful. Three great recommendations there.
Yeah.
I'm glad I took the opportunity to get some good recommendations. It's actually been fascinating talking to you today, and thank you so
Well,
much for your
thank you
time.
for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And for anyone that's watching would like to get in touch with you or
Yeah.
dressing rooms, home staging, what's the best way of doing that?
So we're probably most active on Instagram. So it's dressing rooms staging on Instagram. Or our email is hello@dressingroomshomestaging.co.uk.
Brilliant. Well, look, it'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months and just see next
Yeah.
stages and what's going on with you then. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thank you very, very much for having me.
Thank you.
Cheers.